Amanda, hello. How are you doing? Can't hear you yet. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can now.
You're absolutely stunning. It's so lovely to have you here. I don't recognize you. I literally don't recognize you. The difference now, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And look, I'm gonna get ahead of myself as usual here. But let's go right back to the beginning. Thanks for coming on, by the way. So many people here already shouting your name, so thank you for that. So let's go right back to the beginning and just talk about where you were before we met. So what was the main things that you were struggling with, Amanda, before we met?
Well, probably like most people, weight, self-confidence. I'd kind of been on the same little treadmill for about a year and a half. I kept seeming to just gain weight, and I'd go to the gym and I'd try, and nothing would seem to work. And then I'd get down, and then I'd think, oh God, what's the point? And I'd just get more and more annoyed. And I think, you get to an age where hormones and everything seems to just be against you. And it didn't seem to matter what I did. I just couldn't get the weight off. And it just steadily made me feel worse and worse and worse about myself. And that was, I think when I very first messaged you, we'd just come back from holiday, and we'd had a lovely holiday, and I felt horrendous. That's the only way I can describe it. It was just the worst. I just felt really down. And we got back from our holiday, and we'd had some photos taken with friends while we were there, and they put them through the door while I was away because we stayed an extra week from them. And we got back, and these photos were just awful. And I sat and I cried for about an hour and a half after I opened these photos. And it was the day we'd got back, and I just sent a message into the group. I'd seen you'd pop up before, and you do that thing where you're like, oh yeah, it'll just be some other thing. And I just was like, I don't know what else to do. I didn't know where else to turn. And I just felt just awful. Like I don't think I'd felt as down in myself before. And I've always had a bit of a problem with self-confidence, but I just felt just awful. And it didn't seem to matter what I did or what anybody said. I just felt, just like, and then you start to kind of feel like it's your own fault somehow, or I should have tried harder, or the impact it has on everything, just felt like everything was kind of getting on top of me. And my dad hadn't been very well, and then I just kept thinking, oh my God, this is going to be me, and if I don't do something about it, that's going to be me in 10 years time. And I started to feel a bit fearful of the future, and kind of thinking, well, am I going to get to have, I know that sounds a bit dramatic, not that I knew I wouldn't not get to have a future, but kind of I didn't want this to be what my future was going to be like all of the time, feeling so low and so just miserable. I think that's the only way I can describe it. And anybody who kind of knew me beforehand, and I got really good at putting a face on things and pretending that I was all right, and taking the mick out of myself. And like I just used to laugh and go, well, there's no wrinkles on a balloon. Or I'd just be really, because it's like, what else are you going to do? But there were these photos from this holiday that we'd had such a lovely time, and we had had a lovely time. But every time I looked at the photos, it just made me feel just so incredibly sad and embarrassed, and like just awful. Just felt like I'd look at a picture and just I couldn't see my little girl, or the fact that my husband's brothers and sisters had come out to surprise me on this holiday. I just kept looking at myself and thinking, how have you let yourself get like that? Like, and it was just awful. Yeah, just like probably a really low ebb.
The thing is with that, Amanda, and that is when that happens, it means that when you look back on the photos for years to come, you don't focus on the amazing memories. You focus on how you feel in that picture, how you feel when you look at it.
Yeah.
And this is why like in my opinion, like we could spend all the money in the world on holidays, but if we don't feel good about ourselves when we're there, it takes away so much of the enjoyment from it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
when you mentioned was it your dad that you mentioned in terms of his health?
Mm-hmm.
This could
Mm-hmm.
be a warning sign. You know, you can have people who we have close to us starting to get unwell, and we recognize that we're not invincible, and we don't always get second chances either.
Yeah.
And what have you achieved?
Oh, I think the biggest thing for me is I'm a lot happier. I've found it's John says it's like being married to a new person. But I think it's probably more like being married to the old me. But that's the biggest thing I've gained, a bit of self-confidence. I applied for a new job and got it. I start my new job on the 6th of April, which is a massive, massive thing. But in terms of there's the weight side of it. I've lost 50 pounds, which is amazing. And I know that I hadn't done that, I wouldn't. Yeah.
50
yeah.
pounds.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. Like that is a massive amount of weight.
Yeah. But it's not that. It's you lose the telling yourself that you can't do stuff, or not believing that you can do the things that you can. I would never, ever, ever have put myself forward for the job that I've gone for had I not done this. I just wouldn't have, because I had no self-confidence. It had just all gone. And I just would have thought, well, I'm not going to be able to do it. And so that's what I think that's probably one of the biggest achievements. You know, it's so much, like, and the mindset thing. It's just, I get an extra 3 hours every day because I get up at 4 o'clock every morning, and everybody keeps telling me I'm insane. But it helps me cope with the kind of mad life that I've got. I've got my little girl, I've got my parents to help look after, and like all of those things and I know that lots and lots of people in the group are in that same thing, where you put everybody else's needs in front of your own, and kind of that 3 hours on a morning is my time that I just spend on me. And that's, yeah, it's, you know, that I do it because it's uninterrupted. There's nobody else up in the house at that time, so it means I get to do it without anybody else interrupting. But once over, I'd done like loads of other people would like done the housework, or you know, tried to get. But the mindset difference is just unbelievable, and I would never ever have thought about doing it had it not been for the group and for the inner circle and for you and for Fra and everybody's part of this group. It's just an amazing thing. I put a post and I just said, you know, if you're at the beginning and you're scared or you think you can't do it, just give it a whirl, because honestly, I felt like that. I originally I started because we came back from holiday in the June, and I was all set to sign up in the July, and then I got in my own head. And I was like, well, what's the point? You're just going to, you know, everyone's going to think, oh, God, here's something else she's trying and it's not going to work. And, you know, I'd convinced myself that I couldn't do it. And then I just got to the point where I was like, I'm going to have to do something. And it was the group, and it was just hearing what other people have been through and listening to them. It makes you think, you know, these are just, everybody in the group's fantastic, but there are all these amazing women who are just living their lives. And you know, it's everybody's journey is completely different, but everybody's so supportive of each other. And yeah, you have times where you fall down, and I did something to my back a few weeks ago, and once over, that'd have been me. I'd have been like, oh well, there we go, that's me. You know, I'll end up not doing it. It was 4 weeks ago, and I haven't been able to go to the gym as much, and I would have just slipped back into old ways and kind of just thought, oh, what is the point? And you know, it's like you say, don't get overwhelmed by it. I can't do everything. I can only just do my steps at the minute, but at least I'm still doing that, and I'm not eating all the extra stuff because I'm hacked off because I can't do it. And like literally 6 months ago, that would have been me. I'd have just, you know, reached for the bottle of wine or just thought I can't. You know,
Well,
I can't do it.
summarize some of these things. There's so many things you're saying, Amanda, that are all amazing. I could speak for 10 minutes on each one of them. But I want to just summarize what you said to me. So you've got a new job. Your husband says it's like being married to a different person. You're more confident. You now are not shying away from photos anymore. Despite obstacles like injury, you're living a life where you're saying, but what can I do? You're looking for solutions, not problems. And unbeknownst to yourself, you have got like raving fans here everywhere. Jackie, Donna, Denny, Gemma, everyone's just commenting here saying what an inspiration you are. And not everyone here, by the way, has to get up at 4 a.m. Just so you know, I certainly don't. And hats off to you, Amanda, for doing that. You don't have to do it. But what Amanda's done is she's decided to find a time in her day where it's uninterrupted, which actually is hers. And I can tell from speaking to you, you don't dread that time, you look forward to it. And that's huge.
Yeah. And I think you kind of, you have to find the thing that works for you, don't you? And I've tried to go on to the gym on an evening, it doesn't work. There's too much of the stuff that gets in the way with kids and work and family and all the rest of it. So there's not many people that get out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
But it helps you as well. Put things kind of, my life's a bit crazy and I know there's loads of people in the group that are the same, caring responsibilities, kids, life, work. You know, I've got a busy job, but that time just helps you make sense of it almost. And that it's the mindset thing that you don't think about. I think we all get a bit focused on the number and, you know, how much weight is it or what, but the difference for me to be able to cope with the curveballs that life flings at you, you know, in this time, my dad's been in hospital, he's been put into a care home, we've been trying to help him move into sheltered accommodation. And I think without this, without the group, without the other people that are in this group and seeing other people's stories, and without that time that you learn from by reading Miracle Morning or, 5-second rule, I don't think I could have processed it in the same way. And it's the mindset that's the biggest thing for me, I think, that's changed. And that's what makes it so different that, I've yo-yo weight all of my life. I've always had to fight against it. I've never been naturally skinny person. I've always had to really work at it. But I've never worked on me. I think that's the difference. It's it's your mind that has such a big part to play. And that's made a huge difference.
The mindset is the head of the snake. And people think it's just a meal plan and training programs, but that's not going to do it in terms of sustainably anyway. We need to have 4 pillars: one-to-one support, behavior change mindset, progressive overload with resistance training, and dynamic and personalized nutrition. But something that you said there that is so incredibly impressive, that is that in spite of your family members not being well, in spite of the busy work, in spite of your family commitments, an awful lot of people and almost would be justified in saying, it's too much right now. I've got to stop. I'm going to put it on a shelf. I'll come back to it in 6 months or 12 months. I've got to do what I got to do with everything going on. And they would actually allow those obstacles or external circumstances to stop them from doing what you're doing, like working on mindset, your development, your own personal growth. What was it that led you to be different? What was it that allowed you to convince yourself, no, I'm not putting all this in the back burner? In spite of all these obstacles, I'm doing it anyway. What was that? What went through your mind?
There's never a good time. There's never, it's a bit like, I don't know, having kids or doing something. There's never a right time. There's always an excuse not to. But I think if I hadn't have done, I can't even begin to think where I would be now. I can't imagine having this last 6 months with the mindset that I had 6 months ago. And that's this, but the time has to be now, because sometimes it's just, you just need that shift and to say, I'm going to try it. What's the worst thing that can happen? And I'll trust it and I'll see what happens. And honestly, for anybody that's kind of sitting on the edge of the group like I did for a good 2 months, it is exactly what you think it's going to be. And everybody in this group, this whole thing is just, it's the most supportive environment I think I've ever found myself in. And I truly appreciate everything.
I'm so grateful for you. I am so grateful for you, because there are so many people who will have needed to hear this. So many. And like the amount of comments we have got, literally thousands. So whenever you have a spare few minutes, Amanda, if you could go in and reply to a few of them, that would be huge. And I'm actually going to share tonight's challenge, which I've kind of touched on already, which is for everybody here for the next 7 days to always smile first. Because I've been smiling since I've been here you speak, and I can see that you're lit up ear to ear, so you are, Amanda. And I want you to work on this. It's not as easy as you might think to always smile first with every single person you meet for the next 7 days. But I want you to comment in the Inner Circle challenge complete and explain what you learned from doing this challenge. Amanda, there's so many people here who have been scared. And if you are scared, like, message Amanda or message me, or better again, click on the link in the description and just do something to change it. Because if you're being fed up, don't put up with this lot. If this is your current lot and you're not happy with it, don't waste any more time. And Amanda, I'm just so proud of you. Fra is incredibly proud of you. He's messaging me right now as we speak. I'm actively ignoring him, and I can't wait to speak to him because he's just so proud of you, and as am I. And
thank you. But it's honestly, it is a group effort. It really is, honestly. Like all I can say is, if you sat there worried, just go for it. Honestly, you won't ever regret it. I certainly haven't. And I think when I first started, I was a bit like, how would I know that it's sustainable? But this last 4 weeks, having done my back in, and kind of, I know that that is a complete shift. So if you're worried, just do it. Honestly, you won't regret it. I promise.
Breath of fresh air, you know that. And I can tell from speaking to you, you're never going back. You're never regaining the weight. There's no way in hell. You're just a different person. Like,
no, I'm. Yeah, I've still got I've still got a long way to go, but I feel more convinced that I can. And I don't mind how long it takes now either. No, it's not about a time limit. It's just, you just go with what you've got and see where you end up. And that's the other thing. Like, I was like, I want to do this by this date, and I want to do this by then, but life gets in the way sometimes, and but you still do what you can do, and that makes a difference in itself.
I'm a huge believer that you don't arrive at the destination. Yes, you get your ideal body weight, and you've achieved that in spite of what you might think in terms of it not being possible. And we achieve that, but then we think, well, what else can I achieve? Whether it's a chin up or push-ups or something else. In your case, a brand new job. Like, this is the catalyst. This is the first domino to every single aspect of your life horizontally improving. And Amanda, thank you so much for coming on. And thank you to all of you wonderful human beings for coming on. And I just want to say good night. Thank you. And you are a force to be reckoned with, Amanda.
Oh, thank you. Good luck to everybody out there. Honestly, just keep doing it. Take care.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.